The Black Angels Wilderness of Mirrors album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from the Black Angels. These guys are an Austin-based psychedelic rock band. They were one of my favorites of my teen year, sort of a cult classic for me. I saw them for the first time when I was 15, around the time of Queens of the Stone Age's Era Vulgaris tour. Yeah, I'm old. But they blew my mind at the time, and I thought they were just so cool in general. I loved their album, Passover, so much. Their debut album, Passover, I should say. This was an old-school, monolithic psych rock record with a lot of really great grooves to it. And at the time, I was just sort of crossing over from listening to a lot of classic rock like Jefferson Airplane and The Doors and trying to get more modern, and the Black Angels were perfect for me at the time. And honestly, I did enjoy a lot of their follow-up album, Directions to See a Ghost, as well, but it did raise some red flags for me at times. Listen, it has a lot of great tracks that play their style wonderfully, but there were just as many tracks on there that I thought that they were playing it safe, and the songwriting wasn't as compelling. But I did like the psychedelic pop-oriented Phosphine Dream. I thought that if they were going to go for a little bit of a lighter sound, this was definitely the way to do it. But with 2013's Indigo Meadow, I fell off so hard, and I stopped making excuses, and I just was not into what they were doing. This was a pathetic, hard to listen to album that was, they're some of their least authentic psychedelic rock to date. And their last album, Death Song, it's not bad, but it's not good either. Tracks like Comanche Moon just really rip and excited the hell out of me. But overall, I wasn't excited, and I don't know why. I felt compelled to check out this new album, and I didn't want to say it leading up to this, but I thought it was their best group of singles that I'd heard in a really long time. Let's chat about this thing. This album starts off with Without a Trace, and okay then, this is wild. This is a tense, groove-heavy psychedelic rock jam, the likes of which that I haven't heard from them since their debut. It is disgustingly grim, and I don't want to be that guy, but for a few short minutes, they sound exactly as they did at their heyday. I love the gnarly, very loud and noisy guitar solo, as well as the very haunted vocals of Alex Mass when he's really on his vocal game. He is so cool sounding, and he sounds dangerous as hell, and I love that. I don't know how they did it, but they really did take a long time with this album, and they did do a great job of recapturing a lot of their magic. This is easily their best project in years, dare I say, since their debut. With History of the Future, it becomes very apparent very quickly. This album's the real deal. This is a bluesy, sludgy jam that just sounds like it's going to pummel everything in its path. But while the tension is absolutely real on a track like this, it's also oddly colorful as well. Grimly colorful, albeit, but at one point I looked at the Black Angels as these prophets of death. And that's what we get here. That's what they sound like. And I love the freak out chorus that we get. Empire's Falling is really great as well. I need a little bit of an upbeat rocker at this point. That's what we get here. It's a sort of garagey jam that just is so deeply depressed and dark. It's upbeat, it's noisy, it's twisted, it's really hypnotic as well, and it does a really great job of bringing back one of my favorite elements of their early material, and that is the sort of political themes to their records. It makes for a really raw, harrowing track that's just a great rock single. El Jardin is really, really cool as well. It's not as monolithic or intense as some of the other tracks here, but it makes up for that with just how incredibly catchy and strangely blissful it is. It's dark, it's haunting, it gets very triumphant at times. It's a little something different from the Black Angels, but it's put together really well. I'm really, really impressed with the entire first leg of this album, honestly. Le Perd is really great too. I love the opening church bells. I love the scuzzed out riff here. The super, super in-your-face commanding vocals are great as well. And I love just how evil this comes off, but just how human it is. And I remember years ago, I was watching the first season of True Detective, and they used Young Men Dead in one of the episodes, and it just hit me so hard. Not because it was a great track, but it was a great use of the track. It was a great use of the Black Angels sound. It reminded us that just the real evil is just us, and that's what I get when I listen to tracks like this. And Firefly is the single that took me the longest to get into. From a distance, I did not like how light and fluffy this is. But this is an absolutely chilling track, maybe the most haunted one here. The whispered vocals, the very colorful, yet, my god, tortured instrumental. It's so good. I love how whimsical and surreal it comes off by the finale. Now, the good news is, this is their best album in years. Like I said, dare I say, maybe since their debut, but the issue is, A, the Black Angels can't stay consistent, and B, they fall into old habits. With Make It Known, the first thing that I have written in my notes here is, what the hell is this? This is a little way too light and fluffy for me, which can work with their music. They've proven it here. But this just does nothing but let a little air out of this incredibly tense balloon that they've done so well at putting together. This to me just brings back way too many memories of where they've been over the last few years. I have a lot of the same issues on The River. It's another very stripped down tune, which on paper I don't have a problem with. It can be done well. And there are some really cool moments on here, some moments where the Black Angels come off a little mystic, which I like. But I just think they don't go the extra mile on this track. Here and Now from a Distance has a lot of potential. Like the airy synths that we get here, they actually add a lot to this track. But outside that, it just is a little too light once again. This just comes off as a sort of average track from their last 4 albums. A Walk on the Outside is pretty rough too. Like, this is everything that I hate about modern Black Angels music. This sounds like the Black Keys took some acid and wanted to do something raw. And I do enjoy the sort of rock and roll and garage influences. That's cool. It's just a little too upbeat and a little too poppy for me. It's weird. And Suffocation, as the finale, I don't think it's the worst sin committed here. I do like some elements to it. I do like the dreary riff and the overbearing amount of sadness within this track. But some of the added instrumentals get a little obnoxious, and this is one of Alex's least affected vocal points of, and this is easily one of Alex Mass's least interesting and least compelling vocal performances of the entire album. So yeah, while not perfect, I still think this album exceeded all of my expectations, especially with where they've been since I was like 16. Wilderness of Mirrors is just so freaking cool. I love this track so much. The ambient sounds that they use on this track give this track so much well-needed depth and make it even darker at the end of the day. And when this super hypnotic, super tense groove comes in, I can't help but just freak out a little. In an album of heavy psychedelic riffs and strong grooves, this track is one of the most evil sounding and one of the most hallucinatory. And for all the crap that I've given some of the lighter tracks on here, 100 Flowers of Paracusia is just done so perfectly. This track is absolutely chilling. It almost has like a dark fantasy vibe to it, which I love. I really love the hook too. While as sinister and truly evil as it sounds, it comes off fairly inviting as well, almost out of the Book of the OCs. It also has this sort of Tex-Mex vibe to it, which sounds cheesy as hell, but it comes off really tasteful. And I love just how bluesy and tragic Vermillion Eyes comes off. There's certainly no reason that they can't get a little bluesier, because this comes off really, really tasteful. It's not as heavy or as dark as I usually like to hear the Black Angels, but they do it justice. And not only that, it's pretty whimsical at times too. And while Icon is sort of the Black Angels on Cruise Control, I'll actually allow it. Truthfully, it's a great throwback sound for them. This hazy riff, I dare you to keep track of it. Solos are wild, and the chorus is one of the most meditative and memorable of the bunch. This is just a very solid album. I mean, yeah, the first leg of this thing is easily some of their best material since maybe Passover. I'd go as far as to say it. And yes, they cannot stay consistent. And yes, they fall into the bad habits of the nightmare of albums they've been on for like the last 3 or 4 records of theirs. It's an odd album that I did not expect to like as much as I did, but you know what? I actually do still really like it. Some of the best singles they put out in years end up on this thing. It's dark, it's meditative, it's truly evil sounding at the end of the day, and I commend that. I got no problem giving this album a very decent 7, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friend.